I think you just don't like science.
I believe in energies. I'm doing great. How are you? Yes. Mine too. And I'm enjoying the overcast weather. It's really nice. Good day to watch anime.
I am doing well and good. hmm
I loved it. When I first started watching it, it was really hard to follow at first. And so I had to kind of pay attention more than normal, I felt like a little bit. But then once I got in the flow of it, it was very easy to track and I loved the art style once I kind of clicked into it. Yeah.
I would like to tackle this issue, right? Of the art style, because every single person who recommends Mob Psycho 100 is like, you just have to get past the art style, right? That is like the thing people tell you. In the first episode of
Yeah.
Mob Psycho 100 is so bad, like it's so inconsistent visually. Like the
Yeah.
story's fine, it's just like they haven't figured out how to do the style, and it's
Mhm.
so jarring that the first time I tried to watch it, I gave up on the first episode. I was like, no, no. And then later I went back. I think that
Yeah.
I think that we need to like not tell people you just got to get past the art style, because god, that first episode is like so inconsistent that like I think that's the big hurdle, because after that the art style feels okay. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, it does. I agree. Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
it's like
that's
my
true.
it's like my toward the Terra recommendation. You just have to get past the first arc of like 10 episodes, and it uphill from there.
Well, and I
Yeah.
felt like when you rewatch it, you get so much more out of it too. Because I like when I went back and rewatched it, I was like, oh, I missed that the first time. So I liked that.
I would say that Mob Psycho 100 is consistent within each of the styles that it switches between.
I would agree.
And and we do
What happened?
Aha! I think my mic was muted for the first 5 minutes here. It's too bad. I had a
no.
lot of very, very uh, wonderful,
Insightful things
insightful
to
things to
say.
say. Oh well, that's okay. It happens. You two were odd, so that's all that matters. That's all that really matters.
I would say
I was talking
that
about consistency in the character art being very important.
Mob Psycho 100 does a similar switching thing, and it's consistent within each of its bits. I
Mhm.
think something that it does that I really like that they improve upon later on is they do these big dramatic stills
Uh-huh.
that are just like great, but it feels a little off because they will have a character talking just with a still image. And we actually see in one of the last episodes, they animate the mouth in the still. And so they get this big, impressive still image for effect, but they animate the mouth. And
Right.
they didn't do that earlier on, probably because it would have been more difficult, but it
Yeah, that's
looks
fair.
really good when they start doing that.
Well, I feel like in a lot of anime, facial or mouth animations for speaking are really, really minimized. It's an easy place to cut an animation corner. And it looks okay, you know. Like, you can, all they do is they just open and close their mouths, and then they just put whatever voice over it. But I see what you're saying about the animation at the end, actually animating the mouth.
Yeah, because it's during one of those really dramatic, highly stylized shots. I love those shots, by the way.
Yeah. No, they do that. They do add a lot stylistically. Well, I think we're having a little bit of a discussion about the intro, and had some. I have some mixed feelings on the intro. I know a lot of people like the intro. It was interesting. It was. Yeah, go ahead, Noah. What do you think of the intro?
I have a suspicion that maybe you're underplaying your feelings for the intro because I'm pretty sure the other day when I said something to the effect of, I think the intro is kind of like reference and a little bit of metaphor vomit, right? I said something roughly to that effect.
Yeah.
And I got back an answer from you that was something to the effect of, yeah, a lot of it was vomit. And I was like, wait, no.
That's not what I
That's
meant.
not. I don't
Burn!
think.
No,
Maybe not.
I agree. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in the intro. It is very, very vomity, though. It's very, like, you know, bleh. But there's some fun stuff in there. It is
Like you
jarring.
said, jarring.
Yeah.
Jarring, it would be a
Well,
good word.
And I was thinking it reminds me of like a '90s live action kids show like thing, like Bill Nye, Bill Nye. That's what it reminded me of. But
I don't know. It's kind of creepy with the heads.
well, yeah, I mean, it also creepy.
But I like how the plant like grew and like
Yeah.
how things came out. Like I thought it was like very artistically interesting.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff like the. Oh, go ahead now.
So, this is an example of an element in an anime that is intended for manga readers.
Yeah.
Because the anime,
Fair.
the intro, it's got a few metaphors in it, but it's chocked full of references. But as viewers of the anime who didn't read the manga, we missed all the references.
That's fair.
The tomato plant that grew, I've heard that is a tomato plant from the manga that Mob grew using his psychic powers. And the heart, the energy goes into his heart and explodes, and the explosion turns into broccoli. Is supposedly there was a broccoli seed in his pocket during one of his fights, and all of his psychic powers went into the broccoli seed, and it grew giant and made a giant broccoli.
Okay.
Little element, and then
that's cool.
There are a few images that are covers from the manga, like when you see the like cornfield with the crop sign carved into it, and Mob's holding himself and spinning, and his brother's holding himself and spinning, and they're separate from each other and looking away from each other. That's a twist on one of the covers of the manga.
No, that's fair. I can see a lot of that because it seemed so very random. I could see a lot of that being references, and there were a lot of interesting things in the intro that looked metaphoric to me. Metaphoric. You can talk over me. I'm just gonna keep blabbing. So go ahead. Feel free.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, to me, like after the first episode and rewatching the first 5 again with my husband,
Mm.
I noticed, like, to me, like, it all kind of flowed and made sense in the intro. It just, at first, it, didn't to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, wait, like this, like the way it tracked, like the way his heart did explode into the broccoli, and like that started to make sense.
Right.
I don't know.
No, yeah.
I love the intro. I think it's great. I
I
love the like weird like tilted shots and
yeah.
the like the
Mhm.
spinning alone.
Well, it goes like this and this and then
Oh,
this, and it like the camera, not camera, but
Mm-hmm.
the way the animation tracks is really cool.
and there's that initial shot's also really cool. It's the city, and on all the like signs are eyes of the different characters staring at you, and then it
Mm-hmm.
like
Mhm.
zooms through this neon glowing city and looks up at the sky, and there's the moon above that makes an eye as the city surrounds it. It's got a lot of very cool shots in it.
Right. No, yeah,
Mhm.
no. And to be clear, I don't dislike the intro. It's interesting. It's an interesting intro. It does have some elements in it that I think are interesting. A lot of it seemed really random to me. I get it's probably a bunch of references, and that's kind of what I figured. It was like a bunch of stuff that made sense, maybe culturally, or made sense if you read the manga or something like that. So I didn't get a lot of elements of the intro. There were a lot of elements that I like. There were a few things that I enjoyed, like what is the master's, the mentor's name?
Renge?
Ringe?
Is that his name? Yeah, Arataka.
Artaka. I like when
I,
he eats
I'm not pronouncing his last name right.
Reagan.
R.E. Reagan.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Arataka Reagan.
when he eats
Me and Jake are gonna say that backwards.
yeah, we are. It's gonna happen. Or no, I'm just gonna call him Con Man Guy because that's easier. But when he eats the food in the intro and then it turns into the little ghost guy, like that was an interesting moment. I enjoyed that. But yeah, no, it was an interesting intro, and most people liked it. I just kind of didn't get the whole thing. Like not for any particular reason, just because I feel like there were a lot of references that I was not privy to.
Yeah. I really liked the count from the
Mhm.
beginning to the end, how they start
Oh,
at
yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get to 100. I think that was cool.
But it was very reflective of a lot of the art style. Although I think kind of something that I feel like happens a lot is a lot of anime start out with a little bit more of a wild abstract style or wild abstract moments, and they kind of settle down as you get further in. I think that absolutely happened with this one. Not like to a huge degree, but definitely a little bit later on it was a little bit less ridiculous. Just because I think there are always little ridiculous moments in a lot of anime, especially near the beginning.
I think there's a tendency for people to, I assume it's the creators not feeling fully comfortable with what they're doing and trying to do stuff, and then they're
Mhm.
like, oh, if we do this it looks better, and then they start
Mhm.
improving and refining and getting used to what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And so earlier on there's a tendency for things to feel a little awkward, and then they
Mhm.
smooth out as the
Yeah.
show
No. Absolutely.
progresses.
But I do think that the credits were relatively indicative of kind of the art style and of the tone of the show, because the tone was it was a little bit goofy. It was definitely pretty goofy. It was it could be a little bit serious, but overall it was pretty goofy. It was I don't know. It kind of sits somewhere between really really intense and kind of a little bit over the top. Like there are
Not
moments. There were a lot of moments in it that's talking about people getting beat up and go ahead now.
So this is something that Trigun does to the extreme,
Mm-hmm.
which we see to lesser extents in everything else, because
Mm-hmm.
nothing can be as extreme as Trigun is.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trigun did a thing where they were like, what if
Good
we
show.
had the most silly thing we could possibly have juxtaposed right beside the most serious and intense thing we could possibly have with
Uh-huh.
all the grim darkness? And they put those two elements side by side, and it's kind of awkward but kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something we have in to a much lesser extent in Mob Psycho. We have like the extreme, like jumps to extreme silliness. We see this in a lot of anime with like jumping to a chibi style, but
Yeah.
Mob Psycho it does what One Punch Man does, where it does those really dramatic shots to change the tone
Yeah.
for a
I will say that thing that it does is a little bit more developed in One Punch Man. It hits it a little bit more cleanly. But I did really enjoy some of the transitions, especially some of the, like, they have this really extreme wicked dark style for when he explodes, and he's got everything's very sharp and everything's very brushed, and it looks really extreme in everything. His silhouette's black and he has glowing eyes, and that it captured I think what it was supposed to, is that. And then of course you have the Goofy Ghost immediately then making goofy jokes about that.
I loved the Ghost because I didn't find him as goofy.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he was like evil,
Mm-hmm.
and ends up accidentally trying to, in his course of trying to take over,
Mm-hmm.
ends up actually helping them,
Yeah.
which I loved because he was like, well, he ended up not being that evil. Like,
Right. Well, okay, no, so this is great. I loved this motivation for that character because I loved, again, like we talk about, conflict is just when different characters with different motivations, come into conflict with each other because of their motivation. And so that character, his motivation is that he wants to take over the world, which is
and
pretty
be God.
evil. And be God. He wants to take over the world and be God. Not the most admirable thing or selfless thing. But he's gonna, his conflict is he sees Mob, who's this like super powered kid, who he's really weak, and he thinks, well, if I can take him over, then I can rule the world and be God. And so in that, he needs to help him because he doesn't want him to die, because he wants to take over his body so he can be super powerful. Like, that's, he's helping the main character, but that's just because that's what his motivation is.
I just say, I love when this happens with characters, and it doesn't happen enough. So there was a confusion. Someone watching the show with us was like, so is he a good guy now? But this is something I love, is that
Maybe
Dimple never really changes. He doesn't become like a good guy.
No, yeah.
He just ends up in a situation where he's like living and working with these people. So he's still the same asshole who's like, damn, that Zafoni's got a nice ass.
Yeah.
He's still that guy, but he has to work with them. And so people like, it's great because the audience can grow attached to Dimple and can like Dimple, even though he's an asshole.
Yeah, and he wants to be God and rule the world. Like, we're still like, oh, but I kind of like him though.
Yeah, right.
No, that's a great thing about getting villains, because you can. It's super cheap and it's super easy to be like, okay, this is the bad guy. He is evil and he wants to destroy stuff, or be the bad guy. He wants to be bad. It's dumb and it's easy, and it's done in a lot more than it should be done in, where the villain's motivation is just incredibly simple, and it just seems to be evil. He just wants to be evil. Giving the bad guy an actual driving motivation that is complex, and it's not just like, I'm going to be evil, could at some points put him in alignment with the main characters, with the protagonist, and then you should after any show that you watch that's well written, read any book, watch any show, or read any comic, if there's a bad guy in it, if there's an antagonist, you should be able to explain why, from the bad guy's perspective, they're correct in what they're doing. Because from his perspective, he wants to be God, probably because he thinks he'd be a good God, and he thinks he's, gonna be the best. So, if his motivation is just to be evil.
Well, and he founded LOL at first. He wanted everyone laughing.
Yeah, he seemed to think that was great. Look at how happy everyone is.
We'll take over the world with I wanted minimal conflict and bloodshed.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and when you give him that kind of motivation, you find that sometimes he is now sided with the protagonists, which makes him more interesting. A villain you understand is always more interesting. If you can be like, I kind of see why he wants to do that. And then I think some of the best things is when you see the villain and you're like, oh my God, is the villain right? I don't know if the villain is right. I feel so torn. But yeah, no, very good villain. Not the antagonist of the whole series, or the series so far. This isn't going to get a second season, right? This has been kind of a one-off. It's a few years old now, isn't it?
I feel like it's like One Punch Man, where they set it up so there are extra threads they could continue, but it doesn't feel like they intended to have it. It doesn't feel like it really needs a second season.
Yeah. No, I don't really think it does. I like the point that it leaves off on. But it does, the point that it leaves off on does feel like it's supposed to lead into something. I think because it feels like it's supposed to be like, okay, now we've established this character and now they're all together now and they're all kind of on the same page, and it feels like it could go on, but I don't like. It feels like it could, but that it shouldn't.
Same feeling I had with same feeling with One Punch Man's end.
I actually feel about One Punch Man. I feel like that wrapped up so well that
they had
it should not have a new season.
And I'm sorry to talk about the anime that you haven't seen yet, Mandy, but they literally end One Punch Man with characters having conversations like, watch out for this big bad guy. He might be coming for you in the future. We referenced him a lot. And super powerful psychic girls I showed up and used my power in one scene despite being alluded to the entire show. And clearly I'm meant to be an important character in the next season that doesn't exist.
But okay, so no, yeah, that's very true. Getting back to without getting too much into One Punch Man, because we are planning on doing that in the future. I do think that Mob Psycho 100 does the same thing, not in the same way, but does. It's because it's only kind of one little thread, where also we're talking about Mob Psycho 100. We've seen it. We're talking about the story elements. Spoilers are going to happen. So if you haven't seen it,
Jake, you're too late.
No, we're not. We didn't actually talk about any plot points. Well, except for
kind of
being good, or kind of good.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily good. It's the direction
we don't know.
Yeah. But with Mob Psycho 100, we get the organization, and we get several times referenced that there's a big person in charge, and this is only one division of this, horrible giant corporation or whatever it is. And then at the end we get blatant obvious, here's the bad guy. What is he gonna do? Where will our heroes go from here? You don't have to raise your hand, Noah. You can talk.
Can I suggest, push forward a little topic idea that I feel like last time we didn't get to discuss it enough?
Okay.
Right.
The topic of best girl and waifu.
Okay. Go on.
I think Reagan.
We can discuss it. Go ahead.
I think that
Or
best girl is most assuredly Goda.
Goda.
Who is that?
Yeah.
He's a fine, upstanding gentleman.
He's the runner.
He has a distaste for violence.
The leader of the Body Improvement Club. Absolutely best girl.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Agreed.
Serious, yeah.
I didn't even think about
100%.
that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, good. Now that that's settled, I think we can all go home.
Great, we're done.
We're all home.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I felt like it tied into them trying to bring him into the telekinesis club and telepathy. Sorry, but they were trying to pull him in, and he's like, actually, no. So he went with the runners, and I really liked having that world built instead of just, oh, this is what's happening and they're gonna steal kids or whatever.
That was a fun moment. Now The telekinesis club was interesting because I feel like nothing ever happened
I
with
fucked
it,
it
though.
up. Telepathy.
The telepathy club.
Yeah.
No, the telepathy club. I feel like nothing happened with it. I feel like it was this short little thing that was a very momentary thing that happened for the first few episodes.
But I think that might tie into the manga also because
that's
like the
fair.
intro
I don't know
has
how
it
much
like stuff coming out of her head and
yeah.
like
the leader of the telepathy club
Mhm.
is the one who drags Mob out to go looking for psychics, and that did have some significance in the story later on.
No, that's fair.
And
It
it was important initially for setting up his priorities and what he wanted, because we see this common theme throughout the show of like people wanting what they don't have and not being satisfied with what they do have. Like,
right.
it's a very important element of the show, I feel.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think.
And how his brother goes so dark for a minute. Like,
well, yeah, no, that's a very good
spoiler.
That's a very good, a very interesting point with respect to the themes. Is people not being happy with what they have.
I love the relationship between the two brothers. That they both just like want to be the other one. They both want what the other one has. It's just like,
no,
I love that. That was.
Yeah, no,
it ties it into humanity really well too. Like, it brings that down to earth and really like grounds the series. I feel like just because it's not, it's Psycho doesn't want to, or Mob doesn't want to be necessarily psychic.
Right. No, yeah,
and so
I loved their relationship. I love the two brothers' relationship. I love the breaking of the kind of archetype. So now in Mob Psycho 100, the older brother is the shy, antisocial one who doesn't do well in school, and the younger brother is the athletic, popular one who aces all of his exams. That was a fun, just a little trope, just a little archetype that was broken that I thought was interesting, and it did play very well to the story because you learn that obviously the younger brother wants to be just like the older brother, even though he's the popular one with all the friends and etc. That was cool.
Which is why the older brother became or joined the running club or the
Body Improvement
Club. But that's why he did, because he wanted to be like his brother and his little brother. So that was so interesting to see. I was excited.
Yeah, no, definitely a cool switch on kind of the standard archetype for those characters. But I enjoyed all the characters. I especially enjoyed the con artist. His master starts with
Reigen Arataku.
What Reagan is what? Yeah,
Arataka.
He was such a great character. I love that character. Noah, what do you think of him?
This is another one of those things, like you were saying, the like kind of
he's not good, but he's not bad.
He's wonderful because he's like a little bit selfish, and he's a con artist definitely, but he has his own standards, and he scoffs at the other con artists, like took your money and didn't even do anything to fix the problem.
Oh, you hurt my back! You're gonna pay for these bills.
Yeah, and he's like, he very much has his own sense of morality and his own like desires. Like, I'm not gonna just like tell you you're haunted and kick you out and take your money. No, I'm gonna give you a massage and pretend I'm fixing the issue.
And I love it.
And it's so good, and I love the voice of like moral reason coming from a con artist in the entire show.
No, that was awesome. I loved, awesome, especially in the very end of the show, when he's lecturing all these people about morals, about right and wrong, this con artist. But this is also, and this is something we will probably talk about whenever we do My Hero Academia, or whenever we do
One Punch
Man. is the relationship between power and like how heroic a person is, like their moral fiber. So we have this character who is established to be has someone who has no power, or no powers. I'm gonna say, he's not a psychic. He's a con man, and he has the kind of the best, the most modern morals in the show. And then, of course, one of the characters who doesn't have the most power, but has a lot of power, or did at one point, the ghost. I keep thinking of him as like a genie for some reason.
He just kind of looked
a little bit. What was his name? You said
Dimple.
Dimple. That was it.
Think of his red cheeks.
Yeah,
Dimple.
Oh yeah.
You want to shake hands? What's that?
He wants to take over the world and be God, and his character with a lot of power. And so that's delightful. And the whole thing about him being a con man, and being a really good person, that's just perfect. That's really just wonderful.
Something I also think is interesting is I think the traditional message to do in like a battle anime, right, where there's super powerful characters fighting each other, right, is to be like, the message of this anime shall be never give up, no matter how weak or incapable you are, always keep on fighting and continue fighting and never stop fighting. But they specifically have the message from Reigen Arataka be like, it's okay to run away. You shouldn't fight. You shouldn't hurt people. It's just run away if things seem bad.
I have that quote right in front of me. It says, "Stop it, mob. You'll make yourself suffer. At times you don't like it. It's okay to run away."
Complete reversal of the usual message.
And just coming from such a perfect character for that. That character Reigen was wonderful. Also, Mob as a character I think was good. He was fine. Obviously he's
fine. He's whatever.
Well, he's the kind of the character. He's a very tell me what to believe. Tell me what to think. What do you think, Master? What do you think? Whoever. So and this is, I think, not an uncommon thing for that kind of character. He has a lot of opinions, but those opinions he got from Reigen probably. And so he's a good character in that way. But he's when you put him next to his brother, it's great. It's an interesting dynamic. I loved his brother's whole thing about almost being afraid of him.
Yeah.
That's also an interesting thing, because it's sure, he's afraid of him, yeah, but I mean, he also loves him because they're very close, and he's his brother, and it's all, he is a little bit afraid of him though, which is one of the reasons he's really nice to him. But I think all the character dynamics worked pretty well. Except maybe the wig guy, the kid who lost his hair. He was a little bit of a wild card. He was a little bit, but he's a good character. He was
the wig bothered me. I'm not gonna lie. The wig
was
itself bothered me.
Yeah, he could have gone without the wig, but that's it was fine. I enjoyed.
I was just waiting for it to burn off his head.
When it got chopped off. When it got chopped off, did you just do
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing I did want to bring up though is I think one of the most kind of horrific moments in the show was the pyrokinetic guy, and how he was doing his pyrokinesis, and then the telepathy bubble reversed and incinerated him.
Yeah.
And I was that happened, and I was like, oh wow, that was rough.
Yeah.
Damn.
Or he burned. Yeah.
Jeez, kid.
That was kind of awesome though.
No,
at the same time, I was like,
a little bit of,
get out of this, and then it was holy crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the battle at the end. Now I think I had spoken to a couple people about Mob Psycho before watching, and I spoke to him over the years, and something that the both people that I had talked to said that, the battles are amazing. The battles are so great. Mm-hmm. And they were, now this was interesting. because I am from a writing perspective, as a writer, I actually believe that most action is really boring. And so when they said this, I was thinking, okay, so that means that, the build up to the action was really good. And this is something that I think they did really well, because they always have this little timer going, this little thing on the screen that jumps up and it says, 63% to explosion, 40% to explosion. And so it gives you kind of a tonal thing, but it also, you're always waiting for it. It gets up to like 91%. And you're like, ooh, it's coming. It's coming then. 96%.
I have to say, I love that. I love the like someone will say something and it will cut to the like increase of 2%,
Yeah.
and then
Like,
cut to Mob's face.
That
and it's
bugged
like those tools for like giving the audience a little bit more information and help feeding them like it's like the smoke coming off All Might in My Hero Academia. It's this really helpful indicator to the audience that helps pull them in and
like,
helps them to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, and again, like a thing, yeah, it's I think action, like if you've ever seen a really bad action movie, it's just like a nonstop like torrent of they do this and they jump onto a boat and then they fight and they jump onto a helicopter and then they fight and they jump off onto the highway and then they fight, and it just keeps going and it's just boring. It's just like because it's empty. There's nothing in it that's meaningful. Action is boring. The only thing that's interesting is what is behind that action is what makes it interesting. What's the conflict behind it?
This is kind of like the way I feel with D&D and why I prefer other rule sets, because D&D so heavily combat focused.
We're getting to this.
I would say that in Mob Psycho 100, I definitely felt like it, with all the fights near the end, it kind of felt like it was slowing down.
Yeah.
Because
I agree
it
with
was
that. It
it
did.
threw
Yeah, because you get into this scenario where you start getting all these big characters clashing with each other and just fighting because here they are and they're fighting. I thought it was pretty well written, but it did feel like it slowed down a bit near the end, just because there ended up being a lot of fights. We had to get through the fights. This is why, there are jokes all over the internet about Dragon Ball Z and how long-winded that is, because it takes,
I watched Dragon Ball Z.
I enjoyed Dragon Ball Z.
Forever.
Yeah.
For Frieza to go down.
He spent 29 episodes charging up the Spirit Bomb. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But
I kept watching. It was
also, you were probably
I just
like
had
13.
to see the conclusion.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was 15, but yeah.
So, that's just the way that Dragon Ball Z, it's a great show. I watched it. I enjoyed it. But the really important thing behind action is the driving conflict. Like, what's the thing that makes the fight interesting?
What's the obstacle? What is your objective? And Mob wants to fit in, and all of these things are clashing with him, so he can't fit in. He can't.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see his development, even like you said, through where it kind of ticks up like 9%, 10%.
Yeah.
I feel like those things actually, because he doesn't express any emotions in the very beginning, and he really doesn't throughout the whole thing. There are times that he lets that go, but that tick gives you kind of like, this is how he's feeling. So it also connects you with him in he's not that interesting,
right,
to I actually like you. Like there's something more to this character. There's something more to him. So
I like that. That's a really good point, because Mob is specifically the big like thing with his character is that he represses all his emotions. They're all like locked up inside, and that's why he explodes, is because that's when they build up to the point where he has to let them all out. So that increase, that like percentage increase, is a great way to tell the audience what he's feeling but not showing. And it is really hard to write a good character who bottles up their emotions because they're not showing their emotions.
Right.
And that's how the audience connects to a character and understands them.
Yeah, no, and I think with respect to how those action scenes go, when he's bottling up his emotions, and you have this ticker that's slowly going up, till the time he's going to explode. The underlying conflict they have, like for instance, when the company guy is targeting his brother to kidnap him, the action, the things underneath that is this guy is going to take his brother, and him and his mob and his brother have kind of had these miscommunications, and we feel bad because his brother is, kind of scared of Mob, but he loves Mob, and like there's this weird like unresolved relationship, and then Mob is confronting his brother in this alley, and then this character comes to take his brother away during this confrontation, and it's just like that's a well set up action sequence, and it had carried a lot of meaning with it, and then with his little ongoing percentage to explosion thing, popping up every few minutes, that's doing that same thing of just letting it build up a little bit, and reminding you that, oh, it's here, it comes.
I agree.
You look a little bit stubbly today, Noah.
I think it looks nice.
Yeah, I have to shave it off, but as soon as I shave it off, people will be like, "Oh, look at the baby, no facial hair."
That happens to me too, though. That happens to all men. They just don't want to talk about it because it's upsetting.
I do want to talk about. I think it's Takane Tsubomi, his crush.
Yeah, Tsuboma.
Oh, yeah.
Tsuboma.
She existed. Ooh, it just got real dark in there, Noah, just so you know.
Yeah, I accidentally minimized some windows, and all my light comes from my monitor.
Well, with her, I just felt like some of the things she says is so brutal, and and you see later that it came from like a spirit, but did it? Because she loses interest in him. She's like, okay,
yeah.
I've seen that before. I don't care.
She's
and
an
like
interesting
so.
character.
He actually wants to change for her too. So he's
Right.
like, I want to she likes bodybuilders. She likes some people who are strong, and I want to do that and work on my body, and it was kind of sad.
I
Yeah,
feel
no,
like
it
Tsubomi, I feel like she's not a character in the sense that I don't think she's meant to be like a person. I think she's meant to be like a symbol, right?
Yeah.
She's just like she's that girl that he had a crush on. She's not she's not represented as being an actual character.
No,
She's just some distant thing that Mob is chasing after that he can't reach.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think she is she's just a thing to symbolize something that he wants.
She symbolizes his separation from people and his awkwardness and his inability to connect and understand people.
A character that I loved was the what's the bully's name? Or not the bully, the guy who wears like a leather jacket.
Roya Shimura.
He was a good character. I like that guy. Just because he starts out very simple.
Oh no, that's the wrong guy. He's one of the. I got you, Tenge.
Tenge.
Yeah.
He is a great character because he starts out really simple. He starts out and the motivation seems really simple. Then he gets a little bit more complicated. And then this thing happens with him where he gets kind of not kicked out of school, but ostracized because of that. And you find out a little bit more about him. And then he joins he had joined the Body Improvement Club.
Yeah.
And he's just like, God, what a wonderful little side character that just is delightful.
I loved his little flashback too, where the girl wanted to marry him, and he's ugh. But he thought she'd be on his side. So I thought that was right,
right?
Yeah.
That was a great again, just going along with the rest of the themes for all the characters of people wanting the things they don't have or can't have, and just trying to live with it and change themselves or evolve.
Mhm.
Like that, he was a really interesting character, especially for a character who's kind of almost like started out as just a little like mini boss henchman almost character.
Yeah.
What a delightful side character, because those are wonderful. Those characters that kind of vaguely reflect the main struggle of the protagonists in the story, or just like the main theme. That's fabulous. Anytime you can kind of echo that in a smaller character is really interesting.
Well, and I think they did a really nice job with most of the characters tying in some kind of good and what's not good about them, what their struggle is,
Mm-hmm.
and making them really grounded in the sense that they like all have this good and bad side to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, he sets all that crap up, but then he also wants to join, the I never
Body
remember.
Improvement
Yes,
Club, yeah.
Body Improvement
He
Club.
wants to improve himself, yeah.
But that's so delightful. And like we see that, and does he really? Like, will it continue? Where will his path go? So I like that there's all these questions left in a way, because you don't know.
He's good
with a lot of these characters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're terribly human.
Exactly.
In that they're very, very imperfect, and that's great.
I agree.
But the overall show, I liked it. I like the art, the music. The only song I really remember is just the intro song, which again for me was fine. It wasn't. I wasn't like averse to it. There are definitely some songs out there that I've listened to and been like, "Ooh, let's just skip it. I don't want to listen to that." But it was good. The animation was great. It's a little bit wacky sometimes up at the front. There are a lot of wacky moments tonally in the story, which I think worked just fine. I liked it. Had a good balance of like silly humor, some seriousness, a little bit of like deep dark kind of seriousness. Some ridiculous overpowered battles where strangely everything's fine afterwards, or it like seems fine, like no matter what amount of carnage happens, it seems like it's like, oh yeah, no, that's fine, don't worry about it. Like when he destroyed the school, did he destroy somebody else's school?
Yeah, he destroyed the other school and then he rebuilt it.
Oh, and then he rebuilt it. Yeah, so there was like lots of carnage, and then it was like, oh yeah, I rebuilt it, it's fine. So that was
I also like the name of the town and the name of their rival, Vinegar and Seasoning and Salt.
Oh dear.
Like that was really fun. Like I loved that because I was like, it's so simple, and yet like we all know those things. Like I don't know, it made me laugh.
That's
that's awesome.
They did a lot of good little quirky things like that. I liked the name of the detective agency. What was it? Spirits and Stuff or something like that?
Yeah. Something like that. I don't remember.
That was pretty fabulous. I also liked his kind of theme as like vaguely, like there are moments where he's sitting in his office that's like they're like vaguely noir.
Yeah.
And then he's a con man that hunts down spirits. That was fun. But yeah, no, the art, I like the art. The music was good. All the voice acting on the dub, I think, was really good.
I didn't hear the dub.
Yeah, I know.
I'm also.
This is an interesting conversation. Well, you know what? Let's not talk about subs versus dubs.
I think
a big old can of worms.
We talked about the plot points and everything, so I think it flowed pretty well. Like, I think we both understood it pretty well.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure.
Across the board, whether it's sub or dub.
Yeah, I have no doubt. So, one of these days, we'll have a conversation about subs versus dubs. I'm sure.
Or subs and dubs.
Subs and dubs. At the same time, which can be weird.
Absent that day.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know if I'm gonna make it that day. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
I like both.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And if you watch them both at the same time, that's very interesting because a lot of the times the sub will be, if you can watch something where the sub is for the Japanese version and the dub is for the English, like it's an English dub, the two will not match even a little bit.
Which is
Fascinating.
interesting because we still got the same story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I think, and of course, I think a lot of that has to do with like context, art, what characters are physically doing. But again, we'll have that conversation another time. Noah, do you have any other thoughts about Mob Psycho 100?
I think maybe it's a little bit less mainstream appeal with the story than something like My Hero Academia, because My Hero Academia
Oh,
has
for
a very
sure.
Yeah.
has a very like don't give up kind of theme to it. It's
Oh, yeah.
very like anyone can get that. I think Mob Psycho 100 is a little bit more niche.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
really like it.
Yeah, Mob Psycho 100 I think is much more of a examination of people's quality and people's motivation and people's moral fiber. I think not to the same degree that One Punch Man is, because I think One Punch Man is just an exceptional, like does the same thing in just a wonderful way. Again, but we're not talking about One Punch Man, but I think it does a lot of the same stuff. In that it's talking about, it's deconstructing kind of who the characters are and what they want, and is that good or bad, and what is that, or what implication does that have? And that was really interesting. It's definitely not something, unless you just like to think about those weird things, unless you like the idea that a con man who is tricking people into thinking he's getting rid of spirits and stuff, unless you think that is delightful, that he can be like a really good person whilst being like just a horrible con man, but a con man with a moral code who wouldn't do certain things. Like, you need to at least start fixing the problem, even if it's a ghost. Like, they're, what are the people that come in and they're haunted by ghosts, and so he says, yes, it's this ghost spirit thing, and it's in your shoulders, and da-da-da, and then he like gives him like a deep tissue massage and like a spa, and then they're like, oh my god, I feel so much better, and he's like, yes, I've banished the ghosts. No, you didn't. You just gave them a massage.
But they really, really liked it.
They feel better though. So
it's a great massage.
Like, that's
amazing. I need a massage
question.
like that.
I know. I feel the same way. No, but that's such a great thing, because this is getting into that. Oh well, he's making the people feel better. He wants to help. He's it's under the ruse of you're haunted by ghosts, and he can get rid of the spirits. But he does want to make you feel better. He does want to help. That's a really interesting thing. Different than the motivations of like a character in My Hero Academia, or a character in Dragon Ball Z, or something like that. Those are it's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say interesting, but it's a little bit more of a complex examination of what what's going on there with the character and their motivations, and who they are and all that. Whereas something like My Hero Academia is like, I just want to be a really good hero. I want to save people, and it is very and hopeful, and there's a lot of great stuff.
I think My Hero Academia is very much about following the characters and caring about their story, whereas Mob Psycho 100 is, like you're saying, much more an examination of the characters.
Well,
exactly.
I like the way you put it, Jake, when you said it was about like moral fiber. And I think it pushes the envelope in a way to question our own ethics in life. And our ethics about like what is morally good, what is morally bad, what makes somebody moral or immoral, like immoral. Like, the con artist, like, is he's so like, he's got these strict guidelines and how you don't do these things to people, and yet he lies to these people, kind of
bold-faced to their faces.
So where is that line? And I really like that it pushes those boundaries and makes you question those things, because I think that's what really draws people in. It's like a line, like, and I love it for that.
those are the characters that, like, those are the things, the kind of conflicts that really get you interest, like get you involved in the story, because you like the character. They're you have to kind of struggle with yourself about the character, and that's really interesting. That's a really interesting thing to do. But we are almost out of time. We have 4 minutes left of the show. God, it flew by real fast. Does Noah, do you have any kind of closing thoughts on Mob Psycho 100?
I just want to hear other people submit ideas on who they think their
best
best
girl is?
waifu in the show is.
Oh, the best waifu? Well, there's a really good question. Best waifu. You know, I'm gonna have to say the captain of the. Oh no, he's best girl, isn't he?
I give him best
He's
girl.
best girl.
Ah, dang.
But I mean, he might almost fall as waifu too.
You can't do that though. He's best girl.
I just feel like he's someone who you would be happy to go home to at the end of the day, right?
That's true.
You'd go home and you'd be like, I feel better seeing that guy now.
He'd probably be a little absent though, because he's always working.
Better himself.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dimple's a pretty good waifu. He's always around.
I feel like he'd be very
You
controlling.
can't get rid of him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna for best waifu. My nominee is gonna be probably the reformed wig kid, the reformed psycho.
Oh my
psychic
gosh,
kid
yeah.
with a wig, because he seems like he's really trying to improve himself, and he really just wants to be a better person.
I cannot stand that goddamn wig though.
Yeah, he's got to lose the wig. So you're gonna have to have some, some personal conversations and work those things out.
Yeah, work it out.
I'm gonna nominate the wig for best waifu. Because
That's pretty good. That's You know what? Very comfy.
Yeah, that's true. It looks like one of those big old pillows you could just.
Mandy, any closing thoughts on Mob Psycho 100?
Just what we've been saying.
Just what we've been saying.
I really enjoyed it. I think it pushes boundaries that other animes haven't, tested in different ways. And I just really enjoy that they tried so many new things that I haven't, like, I've seen bits and pieces of an anime, but the way they collaborated it, I thought was very well done.
No, yeah, absolutely. I thought when Noah first told me about that show, and even up until I watched it, I thought just from the title, I think that it was a horror show, that it was like a horror. I don't know.
I didn't.
Psycho. I thought it was going to be like a horror TV show, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is totally not what I thought. So, but very pleasantly surprised, although I do love horror.
Well, do you want to do a horror next then?
Oh, that's a good. Okay, so there's a good question. So we were discussing now then what the next show we were gonna watch is. Next thing we were gonna watch for next Saturday. Because we talked about Mob Psycho today. The thing that I had put forward was One Punch Man, written by the same person, deals with a lot of the same stuff. That was something I put out there. Mandy, is there a horror that you were thinking about watching?
Another
one? Another possible nominee?
It's called Another.
Oh, it's called Another. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another. Okay.
It's a horror.
Quick non-spoilery pitch.
So you're in a school and there's a new kid and everybody's ignoring this girl and you don't know why.
How is it?
But
a TV show?
It's yeah.
How many seasons?
I mean, it's only one, I think.
One?
I think it's one or two.
No, do you have any ideas?
I watched all of it. I can't remember though. It was a while ago.
All right, Noah. Ideas.
Let's see. Yeah, it looks like only one season.
Ideas? Are you asking me to recommend?
Do you have any recommendations for next week? It's between what was it? Another?
Uh-huh.
Another and One Punch Man. I'd be down to do a horror.
Yeah, one season.
What do you think, Noah?
Have you seen Another?
I have seen Another.
What do you think?
Oh, have you? Uh-oh.
I'm not sure if Jake will like it.
Oh, that's fine. We can talk about. I'll tell you why I don't like it.
I'm sure you will.
We can do that. Do you want to do that?
It's a very gory one. Are you sure?
My poor little eyes.
I don't know where my anime list is. It's somewhere.
So
Oh, there it is.
There's also I thought about, let's see. Food Wars, Akame ga Kill.
Classic.
Okay.
What?
I would like to recommend Land of the Lustrous, which I've not seen.
Okay.
Holy
I haven't
crap.
seen it
Not
either.
seen it.
I want to see it because Noah hasn't seen it.
I
Let's
haven't
do
seen
that.
it either. Let's do it.
Land of the Lustrous.
Don't worry,
Okay.
I know everything that happens in it. I just haven't seen it.
Of course not. Yeah. Okay.
Seriously? Did you read the manga?
Okay. So next week, next Saturday, that's going to be Saturday the 1st of September.
And I will be broadcasting from NDK.
From
So
NDK, from Nandisukan. Excellent.
Hell yeah.
So, Land of the Lustrous next week. That'll be Saturday, the 1st of September. A new month. Oh my gosh, is it autumn? Is it fall? Is that a thing? Are we already in that? Am I behind?
Maybe. I'm
It's
bathed.
gonna happen.
in darkness.
Anyways, thank you very much for watching with us, guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. See you on Saturday. Thanks for coming. Bye. Alrighty, we are done. We stopped streaming. Stop.
for it.